you stupid son of a bitch!
It's time for another terrible Toonie Tuesday. The Wizard of Speed and Time. This week's film is another wonderfully bad film. A movie that took like 10 years to make, and so obviously because certain actors who appear in the finished product in 1989 were dead. Funny how it took so long to make a movie about something moving so fast. Originally done as a short in 1979 to show stop motion. Basically, it's a guy who kind of wants to be the next Gumby. So imagine a live action Gumby using the exact same camera tricks and stop motion animation, but with people instead of claymation. So this guy wanted to be able to make his own movie, so it took him 10 years to make the feature-long film of it. Instead of doing it about an actual Wizard of Speed and Time that the short film was about, it's about him. It's basically a comedic bioflick about how tough it is to be a traditional artist and get into the film industry, which becomes extremely over-explained, becomes kind of a bummer. Basically, it also came out the same year as UHF, which is about a little guy trying to work it into a major radio station and compete against the big guys. The pacing and the humor and some of the jokes are actually almost exactly the same, and therefore with Weird Al doing one movie and this guy doing the next, well, guess who lost?
Oh, yeah. So, what's your animation classification, huh?
Well, a lot of everything. Cartoon, kinesthesis, rotoscope, and stop motion.
Whoa! Well, cartoon animation alone is $2,100 plus a $50 entry fee and a $100 quarterly due.
Well, what about filming animation?
Well, then you go to the camera union.
No, sir. The studio hires the next man on the roster.
Well, how do I get on the roster?
You have to be in the union.
Well, how do I get in the union?
When you're on the roster.
You mean I can't join unless I'm already a member?
That's correct. Then you need 30 consecutive days camera operation, a complete physical exam, the producer sends a letter, and you pay your fees.
Well, fine. I've done 10 years of camera work.
Then you've worked in violation of seniority. You'll have to start all over.
The Wizard of Speed and Time looks really fun, and in clip-wise, it's extremely fun, until finally, after all this time, I realized it's not at all about him being that wizard. It appears in there because it's about him making the film. So, it does use the same logic and ridiculous Gumby-type special effects that makes H.R. Pufnstuf jealous in his daily life, making him seem kind of like Pee Wee Herman. Oddly made after Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and he has the same kind of novelty bike and the same kind of novelty house, except for the fact that he just happens to look like Peter Fonda. Which, seeing a wacky, lovable, nice guy, Peter Fonda, seems really weird. And almost kind of on a level of uncomfortable. Yeah. The guy's name is Mike Jitlove, and hilariously in the opening credits he just says the movie's directed by the man in the green jacket because he continues to wear the same green jacket throughout the film. Being an inside joke to himself that it was made over so many years and so many different characters say, hey, does he ever wear anything different? I mentioned at another point that some actors had passed away while making this film. The extremely funny Steve Stucker from the Airplane movies and Kentucky Fried comedy group appears in this film. He had died 3 years before the movie was actually released. But he's doing the same kind of background funny banter that he does in Airplane, so it's kind of fun to see him in it. The moments that the wizard does its ridiculous stuff, you know, stuff like that, it's funny for a couple of minutes, and then it's not really funny at all. So yeah, wackiness. Imagine Pee-wee's Playhouse meets UHF meets a extremely meta concept bashing Hollywood, and maybe it's just because we're now in this world of jaded young adults, and we're all like, oh, we get it. We know that. In 1989, it wasn't so obvious because we were dealing with the glitz of the 80s. But it really, you just realize, oh man, I understand why people didn't get this film majorly released. Because it's like finding a comedian that you know behind it is really angry. I feel bad for this film. But it is, for anyone who's interested in what was going on behind independent film while trying to just be the glitz of Hollywood, and what was happening with the world in the 80s, it's a really fun little trip.
Watch for the wizard in the robe of green, and I will help you find your dream.
His mouth is moving. He's singing. Wow. I can't take it out.
I like it.
What do you think these guys are on?
I was thinking of maybe doing this review twice as fast as I normally would, but that would just be weird because I talk fast enough as it is. So I'll say it as this. The Wizard of Speed of Time is pretty fun, but it's really overly preachy, so I don't think everybody would really appreciate to it. It's interesting that it doesn't exist in any other formats out there right now because no one really wants to relive it because most of the people that he bashed in the film makes fun of the fact that it shouldn't have been released by Hollywood, but
was given some sort of a release and therefore became a cult favorite. Anyway, The Wizard of Speed and Time is something that I think you should get a check out at least once in your life to see how wacky and weird it was, especially if you're a fan
of classic styles of animation like Gumby or things done by those H&R Puff and Stuff weirdos there. What are those guys called? Crosby, Stills, and Nash? Yeah, that's what they're called. Whatever. I know that's not what they're actually called. I just can't remember. What, Sidney and Croft? Fuck. Sid and Marty Croft. Yeah, that's it. Sid and Marty Croft. This guy also kind of looks like the Wishmaster as well as Peter Fonda. That's weird. But it is an innocent message. So I do think it's worth opening up your heart to The Wizard of Speed and Time. The Wizard of Speed and Time. The Wizard of Speed and Time.
The Wizard of Speed and Time. The Wizard of Speed and Time. The Wizard of Speed and Time. The Wizard of Speed and Time.
What else even works? I was just doing weird things for a little while in video, and I was going to even think how I could edit this. Oh well. See you next week on Terrible Toonie Tuesdays, and see you on April 10th for our next party screening at Eyesore Cinema in downtown Toronto. Want more information? Drop me a line.